The frontier town of Redstone lay nestled between rugged hills, its appearance shaped by dusty trails and weathered wooden buildings. The sun beat down relentlessly, leaving the streets parched and cracked, while the wind stirred up clouds of dust that tickled the noses of the townsfolk. Life here was harsh, and each day brought challenges that tested the resilience of its residents. Shops huddled together, their doors swinging in the dry breeze as children played nearby, their laughter a welcome sound against the backdrop of hard labor. The saloon was often full of weary cowboys, sharing tales of adventures, while others found solace in the general store, trading goods for supplies. Despite the camaraderie, fear loomed large. Bandits and outlaws roamed freely, making life uncertain for everyone. The townspeople had learned to rely on each other. Neighbors would come together to help when a storm hit or when someone fell ill. Among them was a brave nurse, known for her quick hands and compassionate heart. As dusk settled over Redstone, preparing to wrap the town in shadows, she was unaware that tonight would bring an unexpected visitor, the kind no one anticipated. In the heart of Redstone lived Clara, a nurse admired for her fierce spirit and gentle touch. With her dark hair always tied back and bright blue eyes filled with determination, she was a beacon of hope in the town. Clara dedicated her life to caring for those in need, whether it was a child with a fever or an elderly neighbor struggling to breathe. The townsfolk often remarked that there was no wound too deep or illness too severe that she could not help heal. Each morning, Clara would rise before the sun, ready to tend to her small clinic, where shelves were lined with jars and bandages. Despite the dangers of the frontier, she never hesitated to venture outside, often riding her horse to visit families in remote areas. She understood that every individual mattered and believed her calling was to serve others, no matter the risk. As night approached, Clara felt an unshakable sense of duty. She knew the dangers that lurked beyond the comfort of her cabin, but she embraced them to make a difference in people's lives. Little did she know that tonight, her bravery would be tested like never before when an unexpected visitor would arrive at her door, one who would change everything. Just as Clara was finishing her evening chores, a loud crash echoed outside, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps stumbling toward her cabin. A moment later, the door burst open, and in staggered a bullet-torn outlaw, his face pale and smeared with dirt. Clara's heart raced as she quickly assessed the scene. He collapsed to the floor, groaning in pain, his shirt soaked with blood. Without hesitation, she rushed to his side, her training kicking in as she knelt beside him. "What happened?" she asked urgently, but he could barely respond. The outlaw's breath came in shallow gasps, and she noticed the wounds. 2 deep gunshots in his side, and a third grazed his arm. Time was of the essence. Clara swiftly gathered her supplies, her hands moving with practiced precision as she prepared to tend to his injuries. The once quiet cabin filled with an atmosphere of urgency. Every moment counted. She worked rapidly, applying pressure to stop the bleeding while keeping an eye on the door, fearing that more trouble might follow him. With each passing second, Clara understood that this stranger wasn't just an outlaw. He represented danger and despair, and possibly her biggest challenge yet. Clara worked tirelessly through the night, her hands steady and focused as she bandaged the outlaw's wounds. The flickering light of the oil lamp cast shadows on the walls, creating an intimate yet tense atmosphere in the small cabin. With each wrap of the bandage, she could feel the weight of his pain and desperation. She murmured soothing words to him, trying to keep him conscious and calm as she cleaned the gunshot wounds with careful precision. As she stitched up the deeper gashes, Clara felt a mix of determination and compassion. She knew that saving this man could put her own life at risk, yet her heart wouldn't let her turn away. Every time he winced in pain, she offered gentle encouragement, urging him to hold on. The hours dragged on, punctuated by the sounds of his labored breathing and her reassuring voice. In between tending to his injuries, Clara monitored the door, half expecting rangers to burst in at any moment. She couldn't help but wonder about his past and what had led him to this moment. Despite the uncertainty swirling around them, she poured every ounce of her skill into saving him, embodying hope amidst chaos. As Clara stitched the outlaw's wounds, Brief flashes of his past flickered through his mind, painting a picture of a life filled with hardship and heartache. He had once been a young boy in a small town, surrounded by laughter and a loving family. But tragedy struck when bandits raided their home, leaving him orphaned and alone. In the wake of that violence, the boy vowed never to be powerless again. Years passed, and he learned to survive on the fringes, falling deeper into a world of crime as he sought revenge against those who had wronged him. Each choice he made pulled him further away from the boy he used to be, turning him into an outlaw feared by many. Memories of close friends lost along the way haunted him, faces that blurred in the chaos of gunfights and betrayals. Now, lying in Clara's cabin, his body trembling with pain, he couldn't help but wonder if this was where it all ended. As he felt her delicate hands working over his wounds, he glimpsed a flicker of hope, a chance for redemption perhaps, something he'd thought lost long ago. Would this brave nurse see beyond his past and help him find a new path? As Clara worked diligently to mend the outlaw's wounds, an unsettling quiet settled around her cabin. The flickering lamp cast long shadows, but outside, the night was alive with muffled voices and the faint sound of boots crunching on gravel. Unbeknownst to Clara, a group of rangers had gathered on her porch, their presence tense and watchful. The rangers exchanged hushed whispers, their silhouettes visible through the cabin window. Clara could sense the weight of their scrutiny without seeing them clearly. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach, knowing that trouble could arrive at any moment. Each time she heard a creak in the floorboards or a rustle outside, her heart raced with anxiety. Meanwhile, the outlaw lay on the floor, growing increasingly aware of the danger looming beyond the walls. He shared Clara's unease. He knew that if rangers discovered him here, it would mean certain doom for both him and the nurse who had so bravely taken him in. With each passing minute, their fates seemed more intertwined, and both began to wonder if they would see dawn together or if this night would end in chaos. As Clara continued to bandage the outlaw's wounds, a storm of conflicting thoughts swirled in her mind. She had always believed in the sanctity of life, dedicating herself to healing anyone who needed help. Yet now, she was faced with a man who had chosen a path of violence and crime. How could she reconcile her duty as a nurse with the knowledge that he had caused pain and suffering to others? With each stitch she made, Clara felt the weight of her choice. Was she saving a life or prolonging the existence of someone who might return to a life of crime? The rangers outside represented justice, enforcing laws that Clara had always respected. Yet here she was, defying them to save an outlaw. The tension gnawed at her heart as she questioned whether her compassion was misguided. Clara glanced at the outlaw, his face contorted in pain but also showing a flicker of vulnerability. She wondered if he could change, if he could find redemption beyond this night. But what if this act of kindness led to more violence? Torn between her principles and instincts, Clara knew that whatever happened next would define not just the outlaw's fate, but hers as well. Just before dawn, the first light of day began to seep through the cracks in the cabin walls, casting a soft glow across the floor. The flickering oil lamp flickered against the encroaching brightness, revealing the weary faces of Clara and the outlaw, both exhausted from the night's turmoil. As the sun rose, it painted the porch outside in hues of gold and amber, illuminating the silhouettes of the rangers still gathered there. Clara paused for a brief moment, taking in the peacefulness that dawn brought, a stark contrast to the chaos that had filled her cabin hours before. The gentle light felt like a promise, a hope for new beginnings and second chances. Yet, as she glanced out the window, she saw the rangers still tense and watchful, their figures outlined against the brightening sky. The outlaw shifted on the floor, his eyes squinting at the newfound light, which seemed almost to symbolize his own chance at redemption. He realized that this dawn could bring both salvation and peril. Clara felt the weight of this moment. Whatever decisions lay ahead would shape not just their futures but also the fate of Redstone itself. With dawn's arrival, a turning point had begun, urging them both to confront what came next. As the morning light brightened the cabin, Clara heard the heavy footsteps of the rangers approaching. Her heart raced as she quickly glanced at the outlaw, who lay still on the floor, his breathing shallow but steady. She knew this moment could change everything. Just as she feared, a firm knock echoed on the door, followed by a commanding voice demanding entry. "Open up! We know you're harboring a fugitive!" One of the rangers shouted, his tone sharp and filled with authority. Clara felt a surge of protectiveness for her patient. He needed her help more than ever. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door slightly, just enough to peek outside. The rangers stood tall and imposing on the porch, their shadows stretching long in the morning sun. "He's hurt badly," Clara began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "He needs medical attention. He's not a threat to anyone right now." The lead ranger narrowed his eyes, suspicion etched across his face. "And what about all those he's hurt? You can't just ignore that." Clara felt the tension in the air thickening as she pleaded for understanding, knowing that her next words could either save or condemn them both. Clara stood at the threshold, her heart pounding in her chest as the ranger's eyes bore into her. The tension was razor thin, and she could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Should she protect the outlaw and risk everything, or should she turn him over to the law to ensure her own safety? The outlaw, still weak from his injuries, looked up at Clara with a mixture of fear and gratitude, knowing that his fate rested in her hands. "Clara, please," he murmured, his voice strained. "I don't want to go back to that life. I want a chance to change." His words echoed in her mind, reminding her of their shared humanity amid chaos. On the other side of the door, the lead ranger's frustration was palpable. "We can't let him escape justice. He's hurt others, and you know it." Clara's mind raced. She understood the ranger's perspective. They were enforcing a law meant to protect their community from people like him. In that moment of tension, Clara realized that her decision could either condemn or save them both. As dawn illuminated the world outside, she took a deep breath, ready to confront not just the rangers, but also what it meant to be compassionate in a world filled with judgment. After a long moment of silence, Clara made her choice. With a steady voice, she addressed the rangers, explaining how the outlaw needed care and a chance to change. The rangers, still wary but taken aback by her conviction, agreed to listen. Together, they made a plan to provide him with a fair trial rather than drag him back in chains, allowing for the possibility of redemption. As Clara watched the rangers lead the outlaw away, her heart was heavy yet hopeful. She had chosen compassion over fear, understanding that everyone is shaped by their circumstances. She reflected on the night's chaos and how it had challenged her values. She realized that being a healer sometimes meant taking risks for the sake of another's future. The outlaw glanced back at her, gratitude shining in his eyes despite his uncertain fate. He felt a flicker of hope for the first time in years, knowing someone believed in his potential for change. As dawn fully broke over Redstone, both Clara and the outlaw prepared to face new paths shaped by their choices. Hers reflecting compassion and courage, and his embracing the chance for redemption after a life marked by hardship. As the sun rose higher in the sky, bathing Redstone in warm light, Clara and the outlaw both understood the profound lessons they had learned through their shared experience. In a world often ruled by fear and judgment, they discovered that empathy could bridge even the widest divides. Clara had risked her own safety to help a man society deemed unworthy of compassion, and in doing so, she reaffirmed her belief in the power of kindness. The outlaw, once defined by his past mistakes, now felt the flicker of hope ignite within him. Clara's willingness to see beyond his scars and offer care awakened a desire for change he thought was lost forever. Their encounter served as a reminder that unexpected bonds can form in the direst circumstances, revealing our shared humanity amidst chaos. As they parted ways, both Clara and the outlaw carried with them a renewed sense of purpose. The world outside might still be fraught with challenges, but they had learned that compassion could lead to redemption, not just for one another, but for anyone willing to embrace it. In the heart of Redstone, 2 lives had been forever altered, proof that even in darkness, light can shine through when we choose to connect with empathy and understanding.